Will you pay me? Hiruzen nodded and scratched his bear. You will get paid for the missions you do. And sake? Naruto asked. What about it? How much sake will I get as a bonus for each mission? None. Hiruzen yelled and slammed his fist on Naruto's head once again. Itai. An hour later, just outside of Konoha. Damn that old monkey, Naruto thought while nursing his head. He didn't have to hit so hard. After hitting Naruto a few more times and putting a Konoha mark with a stamp on his forehead, Hiruzen had sent Naruto on his first mission. He was to find a certain genin team and bring them safely back to Konoha. The genin team had been sent on their first C-ranked mission. The mission was to act as bodyguards for a businessman on his way to a village at the Fire Country's border. This village, however, was not a normal village. It was a village where many ninjas and bounty hunters gathered when they took a break during their missions. Sometimes, but very rarely, even missing nins gather there, and that is the reason why Naruto is sent to back up the genin team. The genin team was Team 8 led by Yuhi Kurenai, a rookie Junin. Her three genins are Inuzuka Kiba, Aburame Shino and Hyuga Hinata. 3 hours quickly passed as Naruto ran towards the village at high speed. Team 8 had completed their mission and had headed out from the village an hour ago. An half-hour after they had left the village, they had been attacked by ninjas from Rain Village. There was 4 Rain ninjas in total, 3 of them Chunin and 1 of them a Junin. The Junin was no stranger to Kurenai since he was a former Konoha ninja, Rokusho Aoi. Kiba and Hinata had both lost to their Chunin opponents quickly, while Shino held up longer but in the end lost as well. Kurenai was holding up until she was distracted by seeing all of her genins losing their battles. One of the Chunins kicked Kiba in the head while laughing, so weak. The one that had beaten Shino did the same, while the one that had beaten Hinata was leering at her. Let's bring this girl and that woman and have some fun tonight, Captain Aoi. You bastards, Kurenai yelled with blood falling out of her mouth. She was pinned to the ground by Aoi, who had took advantage of her being distracted and managed to surprise Kurenai. This was the scene that Naruto walked into. A fight? Naruto said in a boring tone, gaining the attention of everyone there. Get lost, brat. The Chunin that was standing next to Kiba said, while the one next to Shino pointed to Naruto's forehead. He has the Konoha mark, he is with them. He doesn't have a forehead protector, he's probably just some brat playing ninja. Ignore him, the one that was leering at Hinata said. Naruto looked around, ignoring the brat comments for now, and then he noticed something. He walked up to the Chunin next to Kiba and unsealed his sword from a scroll which he had stored in his small shirt pocket. He brought the back of the sword to Kiba's head and poked him and said, "Aren't you that, you know? Kiba? That doesn't look like a toy sword, what should we do with him, Captain?" The Chunin next to Kiba asked Aoi, who answered quickly, "Just kill him as well, and do it quick, we don't have all day." Kiba had taken a lot of damage and was currently very dizzy. The only thing he could make out was blonde hair and a stupid smile and something poking him. "Cut it out," he whined. Naruto grinned and turned his attention back to the Rain Ninja. "Are any of you guys Team 8? The Rain Ninjas didn't answer. Instead, they had armed themselves with kunais and surrounded Naruto, who hadn't moved or even noticed that they had surrounded him. "We are Team 8, Kiba managed to say between coughs. "I see," Naruto said, putting a hand to his chin. "Ah. I have figured out the situation. Die!" The 3 Chunins yelled at the same time, throwing their kunais at him. Naruto quickly deflected the kunais with his sword and then moved at such a high speed that no one there could follow him. He had ran past each one of the Chunins once and no one saw it, but he had drawn his sword 3 times. "Hanauta Sancho," Naruto said, slowly walking past the Chunins who had not moved from their spot. A moment later, all 3 of them started bleeding from a big cut on their stomach, blood coming out from their mouths then falling down on the ground. "Yahazu Jiri." 3-verse humming. Arrow notch slash. "Ah crap," Naruto said, stomping his foot on the ground. "I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Senju." "Nani?" Aoi said with wide eyes. "So that is it? You have come for my bounty then, huh?" "Bounty hunter Senju. Huh?" Naruto said in a bored tone. "Who are you?" Kurenai had finally regained her composure, yelled, "You can't defeat this man. I will hold him up to give you time to get my genins out of here." Naruto narrowed his eyes at her. "Are you the old man?" "Huh, no," was Kurenai's answer. "Then no, I don't take orders from anyone but the old man, so I refuse," Naruto said and did a hand sign. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, creating 10 solid shadow clones. This brat, Aoi thought staring down at the clones, you know that technique? Impressive, but that won't be enough against me. Aoi armed himself with the Raijin no Ken, sword of the Thunder God, and charged Naruto's clones. Bunshin Daibakuha. Naruto whispered from behind a tree where had hidden himself, and soon after his clones exploded. Naruto managed to see Aoi using the replacement technique to get himself to safety before smoke covered the area. Damn it, Naruto said and walked out from where he was hiding and stared up at Aoi, who was standing on a large tree branch. I am a Junin for a reason, you know, Aoi said before jumping down on the ground, but for now I have had enough of you. Let's settle this, shall we? Crap, I really wanted to end this with ninjutsu, Naruto whined while drying his fake tears. Oh well. Naruto focused as he saw Aoi running at him at a high speed with that lightning sword. Naruto charged at Aoi at an even higher speed. Itoryu ei. Shi sun sun. Naruto's quick draw sword technique was a lot faster than Aoi was prepared for. The result was Naruto's sword cutting Aoi from his shoulder down to his waist, nearly cutting him into two halves. I'm done, Naruto said as Aoi fell down on the ground, obviously dead with blood everywhere. He resheathed his sword and walked towards Kurenai, who had seen everything. Now then, Naruto began, are you Team 8? Hi, Kurenai answered, taken a bit by surprise. I am the Junin sensei of Team 8, Yuhi Kurenai. I see, Naruto said before creating 3 shadow clones. His clones picked up Kiba, Hinata and Shino and threw them over their shoulders while Naruto did the same with Kurenai. Then I will take you guys back to Konoha, it is my mission after all. Just as Naruto was about to leave with Team 8, who he and his clones was currently carrying, Kurenai reminded him of something. You should take that sword with you. And Aoi as well, he is a Konoha missing nin. Naruto snapped his head to look at Kurenai, but all he saw was her back since he had thrown her over his shoulder earlier and her head hung down behind him. Oh, that's right. Can't leave a bounty here like that. Why the sword? That is the Raijin no Ken, and that is one of the swords our second Hokage Senju Tobirama used before he died, Kurenai explained. Naruto whistled. Tobirama, huh? Before he created another clone to seal both the sword and Aoi's remains. After that, Naruto and his clones started running towards Konoha at a fast pace, but not as fast as when he was alone and not carrying someone, which meant that it would take longer to travel the same distance back to Konoha. After 3 hours of running and jumping from tree to tree in the forest, Naruto decided to take a rest since they had only gotten halfway in that amount of time. Kurenai noticed that Naruto slowed down and asked, "Why are you stopping?" "I need a rest," Naruto said and put her and the others down before he walked away and sat down facing the 4 of them. Kiba and the others had still not woken up, but Kurenai had noticed something strange. The wounds on all of her genins had healed somewhat and there were no scratches or anything to show from the battle earlier other than the blood on their clothes. Taking a look at their savior, she saw something that irritated her very much. Sitting there across from them was that brat drinking sake and reading a volume of Icha Paradise. That bounty sure will come in handy now that I am almost out of sake, Naruto said, then laughed before he focused on the book again. Would you mind doing that some other time, like when you were alone and not out in public with others? Kurenai asked in an irritated tone. Naruto had confused expression. Doing what? Kurenai forgot about her anger with him drinking and reading perverted novels in front her due to something she had forgotten to do earlier. Thanks for saving us. I admit I might have underestimated you earlier, you are very strong for your age. Ahaha, don't sweat it, it was no problem at all, Naruto said with a smile before he took a good look at Kurenai and looked her up and down. Nice legs, Naruto offered, since it was only right to give someone who just complimented you a compliment yourself. Kurenai looked as if she had not registered what Naruto had told her yet. You complimented me earlier, so it's only right I compliment you since I'm a good boy after all, Naruto said with a grin and a thumbs up. Kurenai's eyebrow twitched in irritation. And nice legs? She repeated. Naruto nodded while he pocketed his Icha and chugged the rest of his sake before saying, well, let's head back now, creating 3 new clones to carry Kiba and the others once again. Can you walk? Naruto asked. Kurenai walked over to Naruto and hit on the head. Carry me. Naruto threw her over his shoulder once again. Didn't have to hit me, you know. If you wanted me to carry you, you just had to say so. Kurenai gritted her teeth and growled, "I don't want you to carry me, but we need to get back." "But you just," Naruto said with a sweat drop as Kurenai hit him again, yelling, "Carry me normally." Naruto tried many different ways of carrying Kurenai until they both agreed on bridal style. "You happy now, woman?" Naruto said, irritated. "Do you want me to hit you again?" Kurenai said, looking up at him. "Ga, I hate you," Naruto said in a whiny voice, and then he and his clones ran towards Konoha. "Run faster," Kurenai ordered, smiling at Naruto's expression. "Shut up, Ibeo." Naruto's screams could be heard even a mile away and probably woke up the rest of Team 8. 1 hour later, back in Konoha, Naruto had ran even faster than when he was trying to find Team 8 since Kurenai had ordered him and wouldn't stop no matter how much Naruto whined about it. Once inside Konoha, he had gotten the attention of pretty much everyone they had passed on their way towards the Hokage Tower. One of those people were Asuma, who was eating at a barbecue joint with the other members of Team 10. "No," Asuma yelled with tears falling from his eyes. "You won't get my Heim that easily, you Namikaze brat," and followed after them. "What the fuck did I do?" Naruto yelled as he looked back at Asuma while running even faster. Kurenai got his attention by putting her hand on his chest. "That's Asuma, he has been in love with me for as long as I remember. I guess he is the jealous type." She grinned at him. "Jealous of what?" Naruto said with a sweat drop. "He can carry you and hear your bitching all he wants for all I care." "What did I tell you earlier?" Kurenai glared at him with murder in her eyes. Naruto sighed. "Whatever you want, Kurenai-chan." And he started running fast enough while using Shunshin to lose Asuma. Once he and his clones reached the Hokage office, he dropped the genins on the floor while Kurenai slowly got off Naruto. Naruto's clones quickly dispelled and Naruto stood there sweating and trying to catch his breath. The genins of Team 8 had woken up from being dropped on the ground and was now looking around a bit confused since they did not know how they got here. "I have," Naruto said between breaths, "completed the mission, old monkey." Team 8 had expected some sort of yell of disrespect from the Hokage, but instead he just smiled and nodded. "Good job, shitty brat." "NGHH," Naruto exclaimed as he had finally had enough with being making a fool of. Kurenai's bitching earlier and the treatment from this old monkey was unacceptable. He unsealed his scroll while his eyes twitched and big veins appeared on his forehead. "You and me outside now, monkey." Within a second, Hiruzen had jumped from his seat behind his desk and punched Naruto in the head, giving him a large lump sticking out from it. Naruto was laying on the floor holding his head, screaming in pain. "Fuck, I hate this place." "Ma," Hiruzen said and took something out of his pocket and dropped it on Naruto's head. It was a bottle of sake. "Here is your payment." Naruto looked at it, suddenly forgetting about the pain in his head's sake. Naruto said with drool coming from his mouth, "Thanks, Ji-chan." Naruto yelled and hugged him. Alright, Hiruzen said, trying to get Naruto off of him. "You can leave now. Go get yourself some ramen or something. I need to speak with Team 8 inches. Naruto nodded and picked up his sake bottle and jumped head first out the window that was still closed, breaking the glass. "Take the door next time," Hiruzen yelled after him. A week had passed since Naruto returned with Team 8, not much had happened during this week. Naruto had taken a training ground that no one seemed to use for himself. He had trained for most of the week in ninjutsu since he was still lacking in that area, but had many scrolls on various ninjutsu techniques that he could learn. He had also sparred against Gamahiro a few times during the week to improve his kenjutsu and add another loss to their record. He had also summoned Gamaken daily so he could bring a big barrel of sake which they would share and then make fun and talk shit about Gamahiro, Gamabunta and Jiraiya. A few days ago, a group of Chunins had come to the training grounds demanding that Naruto leave because it was their time to use it. Naruto had knocked them out and tied them with ropes around a tree which they are still tied to today. Just now someone had appeared on the training grounds after using a Shunshin to get there. Most likely someone that would end up the same way as the Chunins tied to the tree. Hitaki Kakashi had arrived from Wave yesterday, and earlier this morning Hiruzen had ordered him to bring Naruto to his office. "Yo Naruto." Kakashi greeted him with a wave. Naruto, who was sitting inside one of his sake barrels, stared at him with a bored expression. "What do you want?" hiding the fact that he was unsheathing his sword. Naruto was not a big fan of Hitaki Kakashi, and if he was going to demand to have the training ground as well, he would have to fight for it. "Oh, don't be so cold," Kakashi said and picked up his Icha book and read it. Hokage-sama wants you to go to his office. After jumping out from the barrel that he got stuck to earlier trying to drink the sake that was at the very bottom, Naruto used a shunshin to get near the Hokage tower without saying any more words to Kakashi. Naruto then jumped into the Hokage office through the window that was now open and he saw Hiruzen sitting behind his desk reading his own Icha. Hiruzen coughed and put the book away. "You're late," Hiruzen complained. "I got here as soon as Kakashi told me. I told Kakashi to get you 5 hours ago. I don't see how that is my fault," Naruto said sitting down in a chair in front of Hiruzen's desk. "Guess that is to be expected when you ask Kakashi to do something," Hiruzen mumbled before he told Naruto. "You forgot to tell me about something after your mission last time." Naruto nodded knowing what he meant and took a scroll from his shirt's pocket and unsealed it on the desk. Out came a corpse from one missing ninja Naruto had hunted before he came to Konoha. Quickly sealing it back into the scroll after saying, "Ah, wrong one," Naruto found the right scroll and unsealed the remains of Aoi. "I don't want you to throw corpses on my desk. I want the Raijin no Ken," Hiruzen said with a sweat drop. "Why though?" Naruto asked raising an eyebrow. "I found it, not you, so it is mine now." Hiruzen sighed. "So you have it then?" Naruto nodded as Hiruzen continued. "Good, that is all I wanted to know, don't lose it." "Yeah," Naruto said before his expression went sour. "You know someone had trifled with the contents of that sake bottle you gave me." "Oh, how so?" Hiruzen said smiling. "There was no sake in it, just milk, tasted like shit," Naruto said. Hiruzen nodded. "That's right, you are brat and brats should drink milk." "So it was you," Naruto said with a glare. "I should beat you up." "Ah, that sounds fun," Hiruzen said boringly, "but before that I need you to shut up for a minute and listen." "I'm listening, monkey." "Why you? I don't have all day." With another sigh Hiruzen began talking about how he wanted Naruto to become a Konoha genin. He told Naruto that he was disappointed in his generation since none of them were even close to the prodigies of earlier generations such as Minato, Kakashi and Itachi. Apparently there was a Chunin exams coming up in 4 months that would be held in Konoha and he wanted Naruto to take a part of that with a team. He explained that Konoha has been known for a long time as the strongest of the 5 big ninja villages and he would like it to stay that way. "But there is one problem. I have one suitable member for your new genin team but I can't find the last one," Hiruzen explained. Naruto scratched his chin and thought. "I could summon Gamakichi and have him act as a third member." "I assume that is one of your toad friends?" Hiruzen asked. Naruto nodded and Hiruzen sighed once again. "No, it must be a human." "Well, what the fuck, old man?" Naruto said. "I don't know any people in this village. Finding a third member is your job." "I know," Hiruzen said. "But you agree to it then?" Yeah, Naruto said boringly. "Can I go now?" "Yes," Hiruzen said before he remembered something that he had thought on earlier. "By the way, why are you living out on that training field instead of at your apartment?" "Apartment? I have an apartment?" Naruto asked. "Of course you have." Hiruzen yelled and pointed out the window. "Your old apartment is still yours. I have paid the rent for you the 3 years you have been gone and also had people to clean the place from time to time." Naruto looked at the apartment and smiled. "Really, old man? You're a good guy after all." Hiruzen mumbled something as he tried to find his pipe and Icha before saying, "Get lost." "See ya, monkey," Naruto yelled laughing as he jumped through one of the closed windows and broke another one, but just before that he had thrown 3 scrolls to Hiruzen containing Aoi and 2 other missing nen. Naruto's next stop would be Ichiraku Ramen for some ramen and sake. While jumping the rooftops he saw an odd group of people walking down one of the village roads. There was 8 people around his age and all of them he had met recently. It was 8 out of the rookie 9, the only one missing was Tayuya. But saying hello to them was not as important as filling his empty stomach with ramen. At Ichiraku's, "Why isn't this place flocked with people?" Naruto thought seeing how the Ichiraku ramen place was empty once again. This was the best food in the world after all. Nothing beat it, and what was best was that they served sake as well. Naruto walked into the stand and sat down. 5 bowls of miso ramen, old man. "Who you calling old man?" Tucci said pulling up his arm sleeves as he turned around. "Naruto, is that you?" he asked a bit surprised since this was the first time seeing him in 3 years. He was not as surprised as Ayame had been however since she had told him that Naruto was back. Yeah old man, it's me. Throw me 5 bowls of miso ramen and a bottle of sake, Naruto said cheerfully. Tucci laughed. 5 bowls of miso ramen coming up. As for the sake, Tucci pointed to the wall behind him where a poster had been placed. On it was a picture of Naruto and under it was written with big letters, "Not allowed to buy sake, signed Sarutobi Hiruzen." God damn it, Naruto yelled, that fucking monkey. Naruto slammed his fist down on the counter. He quickly forgot about his anger as Tucci had placed his 5 bowls in front of him as he buried his face within the bowl, and before Tucci could find time to turn around and start on the dishes, Naruto had emptied his first bowl. I'm gonna need 5 more bowls after this, Naruto said, looking up from his second bowl for a second before he devoured it as well. Uzumaki Tayuya had just arrived at Ichiraku, and the first thing she did was sat down and ordered a bowl of chicken ramen. She had not bothered to take a glimpse to her left to notice that Naruto was here as well. But the sounds Naruto was making as he emptied bowl after bowl in record times was starting to annoy her. This is the best food ever, Naruto said as tears almost fell from his eye. Tucci nodded. It is, isn't it? He said as he gave Tayuya what she had ordered earlier. Naruto got his face out of his 5th bowl and stared at Tayuya with ramen hanging out his mouth. That is, wasn't she that? Forget it, he thought, and emptied the 5th bowl in a second. Tucci, being a chef with good timing, had just placed the other 5 he had ordered in front him, so Naruto naturally found a new place to bury his face. Tayuya had enough with the sounds. Who was this pig that was sitting next to her? She thought as she looked to her left. She immediately recognized him as the guy her team had ran into their mission. The one who did not answer her questions regarding who the fuck he was and why they shared their last name. Hey fucker, Tayuya said, you are Uzumaki Naruto, right? Naruto once again stopped eating while having ramen hanging out of his mouth and some stuck to his face and stared at Tayuya, thinking something similar to earlier before he continued eating. Oh no, Tucci thought as he knew that Tayuya hated to be ignored. Tayuya was red from anger and a tick mark formed above her eye as she stood up and got over to Naruto. Fucker, I asked you a fucking question. Naruto, who still had 3 more bowls to finish, took them all and threw the contents into his mouth and swallowed it all. He then patted his stomach and breathed. That was some good food, thanks old man, he said, and paid for 10 bowls. He then walked out of the stand without a word. Tayuya quickly paid for her meal as well and then ran after him, ready to open a can of whoop ass. Naruto was going to check out his old apartment, maybe get some sleep in a bed for once. He had taken the same road that he had seen the Rookie 9 on earlier, since that road led to the building his apartment was a part of. The Rookie 9 were currently watching something of a scene that one member of their group had caused. Uchiha Sasuke was currently scolding his little sister Midori, who had seen them and told Sasuke that their mother wanted to talk with about the mission he had returned from recently. Sasuke had told Midori to go away and not bother him when he was with his ninja colleagues. This had angered Midori since she saw herself as a better ninja than Sasuke, even though she had not graduated the academy yet. Midori was 1 year younger than Sasuke and the rest of the Rookie 9, making her 12 years old. Midori was about as tall as Hinata, who was the shortest of the Rookie 9. Her hair was a messy dark blue, almost black, and it reached down to her shoulders. She had cute face and big red eyes. She wore a black jumpsuit with the Uchiha fan on the back of her shirt. If you have seen School Rumble, imagine that she looks like Tsukamoto Yakumo. If you haven't seen it, you could Google it. Midori was not as stubborn or uptight as Sasuke was, but she was very shy around guys, making people believe she was just as uptight as Sasuke. She was also very strong for her age and would probably give most of the Rookie 9 a good fight. Midori had a rivalry with Sasuke, and that was why they were fighting in the middle of the road, even though she was usually so shy. So I am not allowed to speak to you while you're with your friends just because I am not an official ninja yet? Midori growled at him. Sasuke answered with a smirk that Sakura thought made him look so cool. Sakura had another thing on her mind, something Ino had told her earlier. Ino had told her that she could have Sasuke because she had found someone better and much cooler. Sakura was just about to question who that was when Naruto with Tayuya on his tails walked into the scene. Everyone stopped what they were doing and stared at him as he walked with his nose deep down into a volume of Icha Icha. Naruto looked up from the book for a second and nodded towards Kiba. Yo Kiba, then Shikamaru and Choji. Shikoji, and then jumped as he dodged a low kick coming from Tayuya. He walked past them like that without another word while Tayuya had stopped due to someone glaring at her. It's Shikamaru and Choji. Troublesome, Shikamaru mumbled. What is it, Ino? Tayuya asked the glaring girl with her own glare. What are you doing with Naruto? Ino asked in an angry tone. Tayuya got even angrier at that. I am trying to kick the fucker's ass. Stay away from him, Ino yelled and got ready to defend her new love interest. Sakura had seemed to put it together as she now had her jaw dropped on the ground in shock. Ino's in love with Naruto, she thought. Naruto, who had walked far enough that he could not hear them, turned around and looked at Midori, then Sasuke. Sasuke had his back to him and he saw the Uchiha fan on his shirt. Oh, so that was what you meant, Fox. Naruto spoke inwardly towards Kurama, referring to something Kurama had told him after the events at the bridge in Wave. One of the things Team 7 had lied about Naruto was about Sasuke not being an Uchiha, and in that way saved his life. Just as he was about to continue towards his house, he noticed someone jumping down from a rooftop and was now standing behind him. He knew who this person was and it irritated him. Why did he have to see her so soon? She was the devil. Kurenai smiled and poked Naruto on the shoulder to get his attention. Before Naruto could tell her to go to hell, he had to dodge a kick to the head coming from none other than Sarutobi Asuma. He had bent down and dodged it, and Asuma had landed on his feet and turned around and faced him. I told you to stay away from her, Asuma growled. I keep asking you, Amusa, what the hell have I done? Naruto yelled back, and the two of them had gained everyone's attention nearby, including the rookie 9 and Midori. I warned you and told you not to try anything with my Heim, Asuma said, slowly closing the distance between them and gripping his fist. Your Heim? Naruto asked. But I haven't seen her since that night and she's over there, he said, pointing at Ino. Kurenai laughed at that due to the red face of Asuma, who yelled back with his finger pointed at Kurenai. That is my Heim. Ino is just my brat of a student. Naruto scratched the back of his head and laughed. So what is the problem then? Asuma, Kurenai said, gaining his attention, you and me are not dating. But Kurenai, Asuma whined. And stop making a fool of yourself in front of all the students, she said as Asuma saw who was just there. But Kurenai, please tell me that you are not, Asuma pleaded, but Kurenai interrupted him. Go away, Asuma. Asuma gave up for this time and walked away with one single thought, she won't deny it. Like a light bulb going, Naruto had realized what was going on. Is that guy a retard or something? Who would be interested in someone like you? What was that? Kurenai responded quickly, cracking her knuckles. You think you can take me? Naruto said, unsheathing his sword. I won't go easy on you just because you're a woman. Kurenai's eyebrow twitched and she smiled in a way that looked really forced. Just because I am a woman? Yeah, I don't like fighting women, Naruto answered, then mumbled. I have a bad history with fighting women. He might be referring to that time one of the Sanins beat him up. Or that other time when he was caught again doing the same thing. Kurenai sighed and her anger disappeared. She wanted to talk with Naruto ever since they got back from that mission, but she could not find anywhere in the village. I was just going to thank you again for saving us on that mission. Don't worry about it, Naruto said with a grin and then waved. I need to get some rest. Oh no, you won't, Kurenai warned him. I know what resting means for you. Hand over the sake and arrow books. This had the rookie 9 laughing, especially Kiba. Now Naruto was going to get it. He deserved that for making fun of him on that mission. He was thankful that Naruto saved them, but he didn't have to poke him with his sword and laugh at him. You have a wild imagination, Kurenai-san, Naruto said in a bored tone before doing the signs for a shunshin. I am just going home to get some sleep. Baka Onna. He yelled and disappeared in gust of wind. The next time I see him, Kurenai said with her eyes twitching as she walked away. Tayuya glared at Kurenai since she was the one that was going to beat him up and then get answers on everything she wanted to know. Shikamaru walked away with a sweat drop after watching everything that had went down between the rookie 9 and even their teachers. Everyone's fighting. Troublesome. With a yawn he jumped up a rooftop and laid there staring at the clouds. With Naruto outside his apartment's door. Naruto stood outside his door sweating and in a pissed of mood. I lost them. He thought as he opened the door, got inside quickly and closed the door, then sat down behind it as if hiding from something. A second later Tayuya and Kurenai had arrived as they stomped their feet into the ground on their way there. They knocked on Naruto's door, glaring at each other while Naruto fell asleep with his back to the door, hugging his sword. Naruto had slept for 16 hours straight, which was normal after he had trained a lot for a week with minimal sleep. But Naruto being in Konoha for a week without a single mission had bored him, and he was hungry for some action. With that thought, he headed towards the Hokage Tower. It was currently very early in the morning. Only old people and party people that had not gone to sleep yet was up at this time. When Naruto arrived at Hiruzen's office, he saw Hiruzen sitting on his chair, sleeping with his head on the desk. To his right in the corner of the room was Kakashi, sleeping in a way that looked as if he had been knocked out. In the other corner and to his left was Jiraiya, sleeping in the same way. What the fuck did they do yesterday? Naruto thought, taking in the sight. After a loud snore from Hiruzen, he woke up and stared at Naruto, who had taken a seat in front of his desk. "Good morning, shitty brat," Hiruzen said in a low voice as he stood up and stretched his arms above his head. "Morning, monkey. I need a mission." Naruto got right to the point. "Need a mission, huh?" Hiruzen said before his eyebrow twitched. "You don't realize how much problems you have caused for me." "Problems? Explain." "See those two?" Hiruzen said, referring to Jiraiya and Kakashi. "They came here yesterday together with one other Junin sensei, demanding changes to the team rosters." Naruto nodded. "Yes, I understand. They want all of their genins to quit being ninja and get new genins, right?" Hiruzen grabbed his hair and pulled it. "No, they want you on their team," Hiruzen yelled while thinking. Why would anyone want to be his teacher? Before he continued explaining, "As for Jiraiya, he wants you to become his apprentice and stay teamless. That would be fine, except I need you on a team for the reason I explained yesterday." "I don't get it. Speak sense," Naruto demanded. "I told you they want you on your team and they are fighting over it," Hiruzen said with a sigh. "And I told you to speak sense. What does that have to do with me? I ain't joining their loser teams anyway, and I sure as hell ain't becoming Ero Sennin's apprentice." Hiruzen smiled at that. "That's what I wanted to hear. So you want a mission?" Naruto nodded. "I need to move around or I get bored." Hiruzen thought for a while, then asked, "How about I let you lead a squad of genins on a C-ranked mission?" "C-ranked?" Naruto asked. "Is that a mission suitable for my skills?" "Well," Hiruzen said, scratching his beard, "C ranks are not the hardest of missions, but it is a good start. You just joined the village after all, and I am letting you lead a squad already." "Okay, I accept," Naruto said, then asked, "What is the mission details?" "I will tell you about that later. First you need to gather your squad. You will need to pick 2 genins of your choice, and the last one will be this person," Hiruzen said, and handed Naruto a file with a picture of someone Naruto saw yesterday. Naruto read the name out loud, Uchiha Midori. Hiruzen nodded. "Yes, she is still an academy student, but I have decided to let her graduate early and become a member of your future team." "Cut the crap," Naruto said with his hands shaking in anger before he threw the file back to Hiruzen. "I can agree to not hunt them, but I won't work with them. What about we make a little deal?" Hiruzen said with a grin. 10 minutes later at the Uchiha clan compound. Not many people was awake yet as it was still early in the morning. But around here there was never a lot of people anyway, since that day Itachi had slaughtered almost the whole clan. So there was not many that saw the odd sight of the Hokage and Naruto walking into the Uchiha clan compound, both with big grins and knocking on the front door to Sasuke's home. "What idiot would be up this early?" they heard a woman's voice from inside say in a somewhat angry tone. Uchiha Mikoto opened the door, and the 2 people that stood outside would not be her first guess if she had one. Sarutobi Hiruzen, the Sandaime Hokage, rarely made home visits, and the other one had to be her friend's son who disappeared 3 years ago. "Hokage-sama?" she said, surprised. "Did Sasuke do something bad?" Hiruzen chuckled. No, it's not like that. I'm here for Midori. Could you get her?" "Midori?" Mikoto questioned. Why would he want to meet Midori? She never gets in trouble, she thought before she went to get her, after saying, "Sure, I will get her, and nice to see you again, Naruto," still sounding a bit confused. "Who is that?" Naruto said as she had disappeared from their view. "How does she know my name?" "Let's just say she was a friend of your parents," Hiruzen said. "Oh?" Naruto said, raising an eyebrow. "Some poor woman my useless dad nailed once?" Hiruzen narrowed his eye at Naruto after hearing that. What did you just say?" "Do you know who your dad is?" Naruto nodded. "Sure I do." Then looked at Hiruzen oddly. "Do you know which one of your testicles is your left?" "The left one, obviously," Hiruzen answered. "Obviously?" Naruto repeated with a grin. Why you little? Hiruzen began and was ready to bonk him on the head when Makoto returned with Midori, who looked as if she had just woken up. She bowed and said, "You wanted to see me, Hokage-sama?" Naruto snickered at that and Hiruzen waved her up. "No need for that, young lady," he said, and Midori stopped bowing. Hiruzen grabbed something from his coat which they soon saw was a Konoha forehead protector. "Uchiha Midori, I have decided to let you graduate early and become a genin as of today. Do you accept?" Midori developed a huge smile after she got over her shock. "Really? Of course I accept," she said cheerfully, taking the forehead protector and hugging it. "Sasuke is going to be so mad when he finds out," she said to Makoto, who sighed and nodded. Hiruzen then coughed into his hand. "Ehem. Let me introduce you to your teammate, Uzumaki Naruto," he finished with pushing Naruto forward and saying, "Introduce yourself, brat." "I am Senju, Yoroshikyu." Naruto had thrown his face into hers and he looked more like a delinquent bullying someone than a ninja. "This is the guy Sasuke told me to stay away from," Midori thought as she stared at Naruto, but she was too shy to say anything and respond. Hiruzen on the other hand bonked Naruto on the head. "Don't forget about what we agreed on earlier." "Whatever, I was just having some fun," Naruto said, sitting with crossed arms looking the other way, pouting. This had Midori loosen up a bit as she laughed at what she saw. Maybe that guy was not so bad after all. "So Midori, are you ready for your first mission? You will be leaving this morning with this idiot being in charge," Hiruzen asked. "Hi, Hokage-sama," she answered with a salute. "Okay, meet me in my office in an hour. Naruto, you get the other two and meet me there as well," Hiruzen said. "Che," Naruto responded, "whatever you say, old monkey," and jumped out of the Uchiha clan compound. Now all Naruto had to do was figure out who the last member of the temporary squad would be. He had already found the third from the start, which was Kiba, of course, considering that was the only one whose name he could remember. He was considering the lazy bastard because he was fun to hang with from what he could remember, but he needed to balance the team. And by balancing a team he means not having too many guys, so he would need to find a female. "Do I even know any girls?" Naruto thought, sitting on a rooftop nearby Ichiraku Ramen that had yet to open. "I could always have a clone henge into Suheim. That way I will always have something nice to look at," he thought with a perverted smile, "but I doubt the monkey would fall for that." "Ah!" Naruto yelled. Of course Kiba should be able to help. He then sprinted towards Kiba's home. After arriving he stormed to the front door and banged on it with his fists. "Kiba! Oi Kiba! You awake? Kiba dat bayo!" He stopped yelling and knocking on the door when he heard footsteps. A girl who looked like she was maybe 2 years older than himself, with brown hair and black eyes and 2 big red triangle markings on each cheek, opened the door. She was only wearing a towel as she had rushed out from the shower to open the door. Hannah is 15 in this story instead of 18. "What is wrong with you? It's 6 in the morning," Hannah said after she had thrown the door open in an angry tone. "Hey, is Kiba." Naruto saw just who he spoke to and shot backwards with blood exploding from his nose. Hannah laughed at that while Kiba arrived wearing his pajamas. "What's going on? Who's the bastard causing all the noise?" He then saw Naruto on the ground outside the door with a dumb smile and blood all over his face. "Naruto?" Kiba sniggering as he picked up stick and poked him. "Is that you, Naruto?" "Haha," Naruto laughed. "Kiba, there is a total babe in your doorway." "What, where?" Kiba said, looking at the door. "I don't see any babes, just my sister Hannah." "That's who I meant, dumbass," Naruto said, wiping of the blood and jumping in front of Hannah. "Yo." "Hi," she said, responded, not very interested. "It seems that fate wanted me to find you here," he said, taking her hand. "I was looking for someone just like you to take the last spot in my squad." "Just like me?" she asked, confused. "What do you mean by that?" "I will explain later," he said, and then looked over at Kiba, who was somewhat angry at Naruto because he gotten excited for no reason. There was no babe nearby. "Kiba, you are also going? With you and Hannah?" "No way, pal," Kiba said, waving him away. "Why would I spend any more time than I need with that witch?" "Kiba," Hannah said slowly and threateningly. "Alright, I'm sorry," Kiba said, backing away. "So are you planning on leaving like that, or are you going to get some clothes on?" Hannah sighed. "Well, I will come with you, Naruto, was it? But only to see how Kiba acts on a real mission," she said with a smile. Naruto nodded. "Let's go then. You look just fine to me. No need for clothes," holding up his thumb and winking. "Pervert," she said and closed the door in his face. At 7 in the morning the group had gathered in Hiruzen's office where Kakashi and Jiraiya was still passed out. "All good, you found the people," Hiruzen acknowledged. Then he looked at Hana, then back to Naruto. "Hana is a chunin, I told you, genin only." "Yes, I know, but all the genin I know were busy, so I had no other choice," Naruto said, scratching the back of his head. "No other choice?" Hana said as she snapped her head towards him. "What are you implying?" Naruto quickly jumped over to her and whispered, "Just play along. I can't stand the other genins." Hana giggled. "All right. What a weird guy." "Meh." Hiruzen shrugged. "Good enough." He then threw Naruto a paper that contained the mission details. "Naruto, you will be the captain and Midori will be the vice captain. Naruto has the same authority as your Junin senseis, so what he says goes." "Hi, Hana," Midori and Kiba said with a salute, but Naruto on the other hand grinned and walked over to Hana. "The first order is for you to present yourself in the same way as when I first saw you." Naruto was then assaulted in a way that would be too painful to write out. "Not the balls," Naruto cried out as he had just taken a kick to the groin. "Why always the balls?" he whined. Kiba leaned down and said, "It's a mystery, Captain." With the longest sigh of this morning, Hiruzen ordered, "Get going already." Getting up while holding his balls, Naruto slowly made his way out of the office with a half-assed, "Yes sir." 5 minutes later, outside of the eastern Konoha gate. "So where are we heading, Captain?" Kiba asked. "We are heading to a village named Oita within the land of hot water," Naruto said, reading from the paper. "We are going to get some kind of item there." Naruto hung his head in disappointment. Kiba put a hand on his back. "Cheer up, Captain, this is C-ranked after all. The others are going to be so jealous that I got to go on another one so soon after the last one." "But," Naruto whined, "it's a baby mission." "Anyo. Captain Naruto, we are only genin and we are already going on AC ranked for our first mission. I don't think that has ever happened before," Midori said, trying to cheer her captain and future teammate up. Naruto was about to tell her that she was not allowed to speak within his presence and that it was most likely her fault that they were going on this kind of joke mission. But he could not bring himself to do it. She was just too damn cute, even if she was an Uchiha. So he chose to mumble for himself and get going. "Follow me, team, and speed it up already," he ordered as he jumped into a tree and then jumped from tree branch to tree branch. He quickly noticed that the only one that was even close to keeping up with him was Hana, so he had to slow down. "I hate that monkey," Naruto thought with a tick mark above his eye as he let the others catch up to him. Why didn't the monkey just give him a simple mission like assassinating some traitor or something like that? 2 days later, the mission had gone well as could have been expected. They had arrived at Oita village at the north border of the land of hot water and picked up the item. The only trouble they had was a fight, or more like a misunderstanding within the squad. Flashback 1 day ago. Naruto was leading the group as they walked on a dirt road for a change instead of jumping from tree to tree. This was due to the others' constant complaining about, "We need to rest," or, "We haven't slept in a day, slow down." Something like this was new to Naruto as he never really traveled with anyone before. But Naruto knew how he could take advantage of the situation. He turned around and looked at Hana. "Hana, I need you to take the lead for a while." Hana raised an eyebrow. "Hi, are we still walking for a while?" Naruto nodded and let Hana get in front. As she did, Naruto's eyes dropped downwards as he stared at Hana's back. "Yeah, now we talkin'," Naruto thought with a perverted smile which everyone noticed. "Did you tell me to get in front just so you could stare at my ass?" Hana growled. Naruto nodded. "Of course, that is the reason I brought you in the first place." Hana gritted her teeth. "So that is the reason. Captain, might I remind you that that is my sister?" Kiba said with a low voice. Midori was slowly backing away from them as she did not want to get caught in the fight. Hana looked really pissed and would attack her funny captain at any second now. "I'm going to kick your ass, then I will take charge. I don't understand why the Hokage let you lead the squad instead of me in the first place," Hana said. "Yeah, why would he?" Naruto asked. He gripped his sword. "Maybe the old monkey is dumb." "Do you think he is dumb, Hana-chan?" "I think he is dumb," Naruto thought before she could answer. "No," Hana said with anger, but she was still going to beat him up for his perverseness and stupidity. But she gave up on that as she stared at Naruto, and as she did so she felt like she was going to die. She saw a small flash, an illusion or something, of Naruto unsheathing his sword and cutting her in half before she could even move. All Naruto had done though was to grip his sword and ready himself for a fight. Hana fell down on the ground sweating and panting. "Hey, what happened, are you okay?" Naruto asked as he went up to her. I'm fine," she managed to say. "Forgive me Naruto, let's continue the mission." "Alright," Naruto said cheerfully. End flashback. After that you would think that Hana would be distancing herself from Naruto or at least be more on guard around him, but she was the opposite. She followed his every move instead and didn't complain about Naruto's perverted comments or actions such as when he reads his icha in front of them. He had yet to make more perverted comments about her which she was thankful for, but deep down that was starting to irritate her. Was she no good anymore? The mission was completed and all they had to do now was bring the item back to Konoha. It turned out the item was a custom-made pipe that the Hokage had ordered for himself. The squad was happy that they could complete the mission easily and did not find it strange that the item was ordered by the Hokage. Naruto however was furious and vowed that he would get Hiruzen back for this. Just as they had started leaving Ueda village, trouble seemed to have found Naruto once again, or maybe it is Naruto finding trouble. They were now witnesses to some kind of kidnap attempt or hostage situation as they saw two big men with black cloaks with red clouds on them stand beside a blonde girl who wore black and purple clothes. The girl, who looked to be around Naruto's age, had been tied with ropes around her legs and arms. The tied-up girl was Ni Yugito, a Jinchuriki of Kumo. She contained the two tails. She is way older in the manga, but in my story she is 14, same as Tayuya. Both 1 year older than Naruto. The others had no idea what was going on, but Naruto had his suspicions. He had heard of these guys, he did not know who these two were, but he knew what organization they belonged to. He had gotten this information the same way he found out about who his father was, which was Jiraiya, who liked to tell things he shouldn't when he is drunk. They were still a safe distance away from them, so they wouldn't notice them anytime soon unless they make some huge noises. "What should we do, Captain?" Kiba asked. "Are we saving the girl?" Hana asked. Naruto was about to answer as he did a hand sign hidden from their view. "Those two are S-ranked criminals," Naruto said in a low tone as everyone's eyes widened in surprise. "What, no way, how do you know that?" Kiba asked. "I have a very good source of information," Naruto explained as he did another hand sign, again hiding it from the others. "Naruto, you are strong, right?" Hana said. "Can you save her?" Naruto shook his head and said, "No, we can't do anything about this, we are heading back to Konoha." "But Captain," Midori said, not wanting to leave that girl here with those criminals. "I said we are returning, that is an order," Naruto said in a serious tone. 5 minutes later, Naruto had earlier created a shadow clone that he switched places with and then hid himself and stayed back. The shadow clone was now leading his squad back to Konoha while keeping a fast pace. Naruto needed them to get back to Konoha as fast as possible, so there would be no rest for them this time. Naruto only wished that Ero Sennin had decided to stalk him this one time when he needed him. He knew he could not win this fight, but he just had to save that girl, she was like him after all. "I'm going to need your help," Naruto spoke inwardly without getting any answer as he walked onto the rather large grass field area where the Akatsuki were still standing. "I told you to cut her legs off," Kakuzu scolded his partner Hidan, since she had managed to run away from them earlier before they captured her again this far away from Kumo. "Jashin-sama does not accept beating little girls," Hidan growled. "Do it yourself." "I told you to do it," Kakuzu yelled back, but both of them stopped arguing and instead focused on the person that had walked into the grass field. They took in his appearance. He walked closer to them. He was wearing almost only dark blue clothes. He had blonde, short, spiky hair and had a sword hanging down next to his leg as it was attached to a belt on his waist. Kakuzu focused on two things: the blonde hair and the whisker marks, while Hidan focused on the sword. When Naruto was close to enough that they could speak to him without yelling, Hidan asked Kakuzu, "Should I kill him?" "Just who?" Naruto said, slowly grabbing his sword, grinning with a sick smile. "Are you going to kill?" He quickly used a shunshin, making it look like he teleported next to Hidan and cut with his sword, holding it straight with the pointy front going straight through Hidan's throat. Shunshingiri, teleportation / A similar technique to Hiri Shingiri, flying thunder god / the latter is way faster. The strength of the attack was enough to part Hidan's head from the rest of his body, and Naruto was actually surprised that this supposed S-class ninja didn't dodge his attack. "Hidan, you fool," Kakazu said, kicking his body. Come on, cut it out, I am hurting enough with my head being cut off. Naruto heard the cut off head speak, then laugh at him. You think you can kill me? Hidan, take a closer look at that kid, Kakazu said with a scowl. I already figured out he is that bounty hunter you hate, Hidan said, talking about the rumored Senju bounty hunter, which was Naruto, but that was not what Kakazu meant. No, the blonde hair, the whisker marks and the age. How many people do you think fit that profile? Kakazu explained. Get to it already, Kakazu, and sew me back to my body. He is the Kyuubi Jinchuriki, Kakazu said as he looked at Naruto. Since you walked right into us, we will gladly take you with us along with the two tails. Naruto did not answer, instead he focused on his plan. First he needed to get the girl away from the two of them. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, Naruto said, and formed the hand sign to create 10 clones of himself. Naruto and his clones all threw smoke bombs around Kakazu and Hidan, and then the clones, who also was armed with swords, attacked Kakazu at the same time to give Naruto the time he needed to carry Yugito away from there. Just as Naruto thought, his clones had not managed to do anything to Kakazu, and all of them had been defeated as he had gotten out from the grassy area and hiding behind a tree. He created another clone and had it run away while carrying Yugito. Naruto then walked back into the grassy area. Meanwhile, with Naruto's squad, who had just entered Fire Country. Midori Ujo, Naruto's clone, said, gaining her attention and kind of pissing her off at the same time. She hated that nickname. The old monkey told us you are the vice captain, so as the captain I am giving you the last order, which is to get this squad back to Konoha. He finished before disappearing in a puff of smoke. Hi, Midori answered. A clone? Hana said in surprise. When did he? Don't tell me that bastard. Kiba said angrily, looking back the way they came. There is nothing we can do. We can't refuse an order from a superior officer. Remember Hokage-sama told us he had the same authority as a Junin. Hana said that, but she really wanted to go back and drag Naruto back. She was starting to like the little knucklehead. Midori nodded to Hana. We should go. Kiba stomped his foot on the ground in anger and yelled, if he dies I am going to kill him. With Naruto's clone heading towards the land of frost. Who are you and why are you helping me? Yugito asked as Naruto's clone ran at max speed. He had thrown her over his shoulder earlier, the same way he had carried Kurenai and her team a week ago. I'm nobody and I saved you for no reason, Naruto answered in a whisper. Where are you taking me? Yugito asked, fearing for the worst. Kumo, Naruto answered quickly, looking at her Kumo forehead protector. You're from Kumo, right? Yugito nodded and Naruto smiled at that, and they kept going northeast towards the land of frost, which you had to pass through to get to the land of lightning and then Kumogakure. Now with Yugito out of the way, Naruto was free to let go without risking her getting hit by his techniques. Taju Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, Naruto said, creating around 500 solid clones that took up all the space in the grassy area surrounding the two Akatsuki. Kakazu had sewed Hidan's head back to his body during the time Naruto was hiding. They were both now using taijutsu to get rid of some of the clones as they kicked and punched through them. Bunshin Daibakuha, Naruto's clones had all charged the two and exploded while surrounding them. Meanwhile, the real Naruto stood in the back. It took almost a minute for the smoke to disappear that the huge explosion had caused. Standing in the middle where the two Akatsuki members had been before was now 4 dark, shadowy-looking creatures surrounded by fire that had lit on the grassy ground. Hidan stood at the same spot he had been before, but this time he did not have a single scratch on him. His partner Kakazu was not shirtless, but his appearance had changed a lot. He did not look human anymore. His whole body was connected by something that looked like wire or thread. The thread stuck out from his mouth and other body parts. I'm going to kill him, Hidan said, swinging his red triple-bladed scythe above his head with a maniacal laugh. This is my kill, Kakazu said in his stern voice. Don't get in my way. Meanwhile, Naruto was gathering Kurama's chakra and soon had red-orange chakras surrounding him with one tail. Naruto had a crazy expression as he smiled at them, then yelled, "Let's make it a beautiful death," and charged right at Hidan, swinging his sword at him repeatedly while Hidan blocked with his scythe. The 4 shadow-looking creatures attacked them with water, fire, lightning and wind attacks, which they dodged as they kept trying to hit each other with their weapons. This went on for another 20 minutes before Naruto gained the memories from the clone that was carrying Yugito. The clone had brought her close to the border between the land of hot water and land of frost. Naruto had once again unknowingly healed Yugito enough that she could travel the rest by herself without problem. All Naruto had to do now was to stall these two enough to give Yugito the time to get to the land of lightning. After jumping high up the air to dodge a fire attack coming from one of the shadows and then a replacement technique to dodge a lightning attack from another, Naruto bit his thumb. Kuchiyose no Jutsu, Naruto said, and after that summoned two huge toads, which was Gamabunta and Gamaken. I need your help, guys, Naruto said, standing above Gamaken. I will do my best, but I might screw up. I am bit ungraceful, Gamaken said. Gamabunta scowled more than usual. You will have to buy me tons of sake for this, brat. Sure thing, boss, Naruto agreed quickly while thinking, if I am able. Gamabunta and Gamaken got to work right away as they focused on the four shadow creatures, giving Naruto the chance to put his focus on Hidan and Kakuzu. I'm going to kill him, Kakuzu said, having had enough of Naruto's stalling. No, he is mine, Hidan immediately fought back. Not only is he in Jinchuriki, he is also that half-assed wannabe bounty hunter I hate. This is my kill, Kakuzu growled. Let's see who kills him first then? Hidan taunted. Naruto grinned with a sick smile. He had accepted that he was going to die, but at least he had completed the mission he was ordered to do and kept his squad safe. But his real mission was to save Yugito. Call him a chivalrous bastard, he just couldn't leave that girl with these guys. Naruto's features started changing as his teeth and nails grew and his whiskers darkened as the second chakra tail formed behind him. Naruto charged right at Kakuzu with high speed and did a two-handed slam of his sword into Kakuzu's shoulder with the goal of cutting Kakuzu into two. Daishinkan, Great Dragon Shot. Kakuzu had hardened himself with a stone technique and blocked the whole attack except for the shockwave that it had caused. The ground around them had split from the shockwave, but even so Kakuzu stood there smirking without having taken any damage at all. Wasting no time, Hidan charged at Naruto once again, giving him no other option than keep dodging his constant scythe attacks. Gamaken and Gamabunta had attempted and succeeded in hitting the shadowy creatures many times now, but every time it would appear as if they took no damage and get right back into attacking them. The shadowy creatures had also attacked them in return, and the toads, actually being living things that are not immortal with one weak point, had taken damage and could not keep this up for too much longer. After Kakuzu had hardened his whole right arm and slammed Naruto down into the ground with a powerful punch, Hidan had kicked him in his jaw and sent him flying up the air. The shadowy creatures with lightning and fire attacks had attacked him at the same time as he was mid-air. After that, Naruto had started giving up and 5 more tails quickly formed around him and his whole appearance changed. He now looked more like a mini version of the Kyuubi than himself. That was the time Gamabunta and Gamaken decided to take their leave. Once they got back, they quickly sent word to Konoha via a messenger toad to tell them what was going on. Meanwhile, in Konoha, Hokage office. Are they ever going to stop? Hiruzen thought with a big sigh as he looked over the ninjas arguing in his office. One was Jiraiya, who wanted Naruto to become his apprentice. The other was Kakashi, who wanted to kick Sasuke out of his team and have Naruto replace him. These two kept fighting about this and had knocked each other out several times already and not left the Hokage office for a few days. The third person was Sarutobi Asuma, who had told them that he was happy about his team but demanded the fourth person to reconsider her request. The fourth person was Yuhi Kurenai, who had demanded that the teams needed to change. She had thought it was unfair that Kakashi had gotten the genius Uchiha Sasuke as well as Uzumaki Tayuya, who she wanted for her squad. But the biggest reason was now Kakashi even wanted Naruto on his team, and that was the breaking point. Naruto would be on her team or no team at all. Enough, Jiraiya-sama. You will take Sasuke and I will have Naruto on my team, Kakashi yelled. Who the fuck is Sasuke, you disrespectful little brat? Jiraiya yelled back. Kurenai, please reconsider. I don't think anything good would come out of a roster change, Asuma pleaded. Shut up, Asuma, Kurenai answered with a tick mark formed above her eye. I'm getting too old for this shit, Hiruzen thought with a sigh looking out of the window. Now where is that pipe I ordered? Back with Naruto, who had entered his mindscape. Good, keep going, give in to your anger. Kurama cheered as Naruto walked closer to the cage and the seal. Rip the seal apart and let me take care of those two outside, Kurama said with a grin as Naruto was finally going to let him free. Naruto, no longer caring about anything, did as he was told, rip the seal apart. The next thing Naruto expected to happen was the fox jumping out of the seal and kill him, but instead he felt a hand on his shoulder and he looked up to see his father staring down at him. Minato had restored the seal as he smiled at Naruto and was about to speak when Kurama yelled, "Get in here so I can rip you to shreds, Minato." "Always so unpleasant," Minato said, then turned to Naruto. "Let's go somewhere we can talk." After he said that, the background changed and Kurama was no longer there. "Dad?" Naruto asked, still not really understanding what was going on. Minato nodded with a smile. "Yes, Naruto? Where the fuck did you come from?" Minato laughed and let Naruto punch him in the stomach. "Ouch." He held his stomach as he explained, "I sealed some of my chakra inside you after I sealed the Kyuubi so I could explain a few things." "Get to it then," Naruto ordered. Minato's sweat dropped. "What a loving son I have." There was someone that was behind that attack 13 years ago controlling the Kyuubi. Minato began telling the story of how the masked Uchiha had attacked them 13 years ago. He told him what he knew about his appearance and techniques. "I promise Oyaji, I will defeat this Uchiha and avenge you and Mom." Minato smiled at that, then said, "Come here for a second," and Naruto did just that, and when he was close enough, Minato put his hand on Naruto's head. Outside Naruto's mindscape, the fox chakra disappeared and Naruto's body turned back to normal with his clothes damaged and his skin looking burned everywhere. "There is something different about him," Kakuzu said as he had noticed a change in chakra. "Be on guard." "Seriously, Kakuzu, stop worrying about that brat already," Hidan yelled. "Let's just take him out for good." Then ran at Naruto. Minato had taken charge over Naruto's body and he smiled a little as he used Hiraishin to get in front of Hidan and smash a Rasengan into his gut, which sent him flying away. "I will call that the Father-Son Flying Thunder God Super Rasengan technique," Minato chuckled, staring at Hidan, who kept flying. Naruto, who was able to witness the whole thing, thought, "Badass. I need to learn that." "What are you?" Kakuzu asked in a serious tone. "Sorry, I don't have time to talk," Minato said and focused. "Good, it's still there," he thought, and used Hiraishin once again, but this time he teleported a way longer distance. Killer B thought this was the perfect day for some relaxation as he wrote some new lyrics for his rap songs. What he did not expect was for a younger Namikaze Minato look-alike who was also the Kyuubi Jinchuriki to fly into his home right at him. Minato was no longer in control of Naruto's body and instead Naruto had passed out from exhaustion. Inside Naruto's mindscape, "Wow, you're badass," Naruto complimented his father. Minato scratched his head and smiled. "Thanks," then his face changed into a serious expression. "Now Naruto, you and I need to talk about something important." 5 minutes later. "I'm out of time. Always remember that no matter what you do, me and your mother will always love you and be proud of you," Minato said, hugging Naruto, who told him to get off. What Minato had told him was that he should always be nice to girls and treat them with respect. He also told him that he should try to get one girlfriend who he liked very much instead of several. This did not make sense to Naruto since it was the opposite to what he had learned by being around Jiraiya and other guys. The one with the most girls was the biggest badass, right? Ero Sennin must be right. Dad was a genius when it came to being a ninja, but an idiot when it came to women, Naruto thought before he fell asleep. That's all for now. If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments.